see you guys in the dark.
I just bought a car right after my bus incident. I had a car loan to pay off, but I was so shook up after that, I decided it was worth it. Unfortunately, I am an idiot, and decided one night in the middle of the night that I needed to grab something from Walmart. I don't remember what time, and at this point, I don't even remember what I even wanted to go get. But I do remember that as I was getting out of my car, I saw a rusted car pull up to the front of the building. The larger person in the driver's seat kind of shoved some skinny, disheveled-looking late teen to early 20-year-old out of the car. It was kind of aggressively ordering him to go do something, and then drove off. I also saw the teenager look directly at me. I closed my door and scurried into the store. I had kind of a do not involve me mentality. I didn't know what they were doing. I just didn't want to be involved with it. This lasted a few minutes. I immediately went into the women's clothing section because I wanted to be further away from the entrance when he came in. But damn, if that obvious drug addict didn't immediately run up to me. I can be naive, but I'm not completely sheltered. As soon as he opened up his mouth, I knew that he was going to ask for money, and money is a pet peeve of mine. I work hard. I made very little money, and I had to work hard for what I got. I was lifting boxes of product, assembling furniture, having to take a bus with crazy people before I had a car. If I missed the bus, I would have to walk miles to get home. I realized at that point that the person who dropped him off ordered him to get money some way or another, and I was pretty annoyed by this. I could see him preparing himself to try and look pitiful, and opening up his eyes wide to look innocent. I guess he didn't understand how insincere he looked right off the bat. It was like, "Ma'am, can I ask you?" "No." I immediately cut him off. I didn't want to hear whatever lie he was about to tell me. He tried a few more times, got mad, and then stalked off, pissed at me. He found the lady working in the changing rooms, and I could hear him talking to her in the same insincere tone, complaining about me to gain some sympathy. "Ma'am, you won't believe how rude this bit—" She cut him off, and I heard her call out on the radio very loudly for security. She told the security to come get the crackhead out of here. I heard him pleading with her, and her yelling at him for a minute. Security came to escort him out of the store. It was very funny at that moment, and I thought that it was over. I went about my business and checked out. I was about to step out when I suddenly had a thought. That guy is mad at me, knows where I parked, and his ride drove off, leaving him there. So that guy is still out there somewhere. There were only 4 cars in that parking lot. Mine with 2 cars next to it, and one a row right after mine. I thought that I was overreacting, but I felt that it was a bad idea to go out there alone. I stood there for a few minutes, contemplating getting security to walk me out, when I heard someone getting checked out, and looked to see that it was a very well put-together tall man, who seemed nice, so I waited and asked him to walk me to my car. He was from the car the row right after mine. He didn't mind at all, so I walked with him to my car, locked the door, and he walked to his. I really thought that I had overreacted. I thought I was being paranoid, until I pulled out and drove past those 2 cars next to me to leave, and saw that young guy uncrouch from between the 2 cars next to mine, and then walk off. I stopped going out alone at night after that, and I started keeping my pepper spray in my hand in parking lots if I did. To the young drug addict who wanted to ambush me in the parking lot, I really do hope that you get the help that you need, or arrested. Either one is fine by me. So I'm very young, haven't made the best decisions in my life. I was at one point addicted to Xanax. I am currently getting cleaned. This happened about 4 months ago. I couldn't find a good dealer. I was asking a few friends through certain messaging boards, anyone who could get me it. One guy pulled through. He told me to meet him down at his little gas station downtown. Now, my city isn't big. It's decently sized. But it's a town that no one really cares about. I walked down to the gas station, bills in my pocket, just looking for the guy. When I saw him, my blood ran cold. This dude was terrifying. He was about 6'3", abnormally skinny. It was probably because of the heavy drug use, and his eyes were just sunken in. Yes, I realized that it was unsafe to go out during COVID, but I at the time really did not give a shit. Now I'm about 5'5", with a chubby build. I have no muscle. If I needed to fight someone off, I would be unable to. So I asked this guy if he has a mask that he can put on before I come near him. He obliges and put on his mask. Once I finally drew closer, this dude had the smell of absolute death on him. I almost gagged. We walk just out of view of the store owner into the darkness. He hands me my pills. I hand him the money. This dude grabs my wrist, hard. And for a very skinny dude, I wasn't expecting that much force. My city is having big problems with drugs. A lot of people are either hardcore stoners or just full-blown drug addicts. I couldn't tell if he had something prior to meeting me, but the vibe was definitely off from the beginning. You could come to my place. I simply declined and told him that I had to go home. His hands were like ice, to be honest. They were freezing. I just wanted to go home. Once he got a little too close for comfort, I pulled away. He looked mildly disappointed, but this man was in his late 20s, and I'm still a teenager. I was pretty uncomfortable. He looked me up and down one last time, told me to go get home safe. I didn't like the way that he said it. Something about it was just off. As I walked away, he asked if I lived close, and if I wanted him to walk me home. Obviously, I told him no. He tailed me for a little bit until a cop drove by. That's when he ran off. The cops here don't care if you're out at night. As long as you aren't stumbling around or disturbing anyone, you're free to walk about. He split off, and I never saw him again. I never hit him up for drugs ever again. I used for a bit after that, but other than that, I'm clean. All I have to say is, if your reliable dealer isn't available, I wouldn't get some sketchy guy to get your fix. This could have ended worse than it actually did. I'm definitely lucky in this situation. There's 5 people involved in this story. Me, Q, C, and A, and my mother. Q and I were upstairs in this library-type room watching a horror movie. Then the movie ended, and we were kind of hungry. So we went downstairs to make food in the kitchen at my house. Just a little explanation here. I live in a co-op house, which is like a giant house that several people live in. Everyone has their very own room, but we all share things like the living room and the kitchen. And that's when C walked in, completely naked, quietly muttering to himself. Q and I were really terrified. We attempted to distract ourselves, while C repeatedly paced in and out of the kitchen. C then grabbed a huge kitchen knife off of the counter and continued walking around with it. I heard C say something about bleeding that I couldn't fully make out. And the next time he walked into the kitchen, there was a bunch of blood pouring from his arm. We took the next chance we got and bolted upstairs. We hid inside the library room and locked the doors. We heard the door jiggle once or twice. At some point, we heard A walking to C, likely getting him to put the knife down. I texted my mother repeatedly, but she was asleep at this time. Q fell asleep pretty quickly, but I couldn't even think about sleeping that night. By the end of the long night of staying up, honestly all I could think about was protecting Q, and I couldn't bring myself to leave that room. A few days later, I asked my mom about the situation. She explained that C was just tripping really badly, and we weren't actually in any danger. Nevertheless, Q and I still don't really feel safe around C, and it's been at least a month. I'm still so thankful for A stepping in. We honestly thought that we owed our lives to them. We did consider calling 911, but we were pretty young. And we heard this going on for a while we were talking about it. Also, yes, my mother's logic doesn't really make any sense. Q and her father had a conversation about C. Apparently, C is at least aware of what had happened, and apparently he stated that the reason for the injuring himself was an emotional reaction to the music Q and I were playing on the kitchen computer. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's exactly what Q has told me. After I would shoot up, I would get an amazing rush. I'd be on top of the world. Once the high really set in, my mind would get slow and fuzzy. It'd be like I was sinking into the floor, I'd forget if I was asleep or awake, and time just passed me by. I got hooked pretty quickly. After a little while, I needed heroin just to get by. Too long without a fix, and I can't even describe it. It's like I was dying in every awful way you can think of, all at once. Pain in all of my bones, throwing up, chills. I couldn't sleep for days. The first time I got busted by the police for buying heroin, I got a short jail sentence and then was back on the street using again. The second time I got busted, the judge decided to put me in a drug treatment program. I was so angry, I didn't want to stop using. I just wanted another fix. When I got out of jail, I decided I'd control my drug use better and stay out of trouble. But there's no such thing as control when it comes to an addiction. You just want more, and will do all kinds of crazy things to get high again. One day I overdosed and ended up in the hospital. That scared me like nothing had before. I saw that I really didn't have control over my drug use. And if I didn't do something, it could kill me. The social worker at the hospital got me into a halfway house with a drug treatment program. I live with other guys like me who are just starting to recover from drug addiction. We go to a lot of Narcotics Anonymous meetings and classes that help us figure out how to rebuild our lives without using drugs. Heroin. I don't know how long I'll stay on the methadone, but maybe it will help me stay clean for a good, long time. Heroin has been hard on my body. I have scars all over my arms, and my kidneys aren't working very well. But I'm feeling a little bit more interested in life these days. I just met my little grandson. When I'm with him, I really believe that I can make it without drugs. Looking at me, he doesn't see a junkie. He sees his grandpa, and that's all he sees. For starters, this happened today in the early afternoon. I work at a gas station, and right when I got back from my break, a younger man walks in. I can clearly notice he's on drugs. His eyes were dilated and baggy, and he constantly kept talking and laughing to himself. This customer is a regular and usually comes in at nighttime. He even once asked me where he can buy Adderall from. Anyways, he asked me to buy some cigarettes, and he was very fidgety. He catches me off guard saying, "Yeah, my wife cheated on me today." I just responded with, "Oh damn, I'm sorry to hear about that." He then talks about how he knows who the guy is, and says, "Yeah, he drives a red truck. I'm gonna hide in his bushes tonight with my shotgun. He's such a pussy." I just awkwardly laugh, thinking how can I get this dude out of my store as fast as possible. He then says that he wants to buy a drink. As I ring him out, he drops a very small packet from his wallet and says, "Oh shit, I can't lose this. This is the fun stuff." Feeling uneasy, I just ask him to leave the store. He kept asking me if I can call him an Uber, and I politely declined him. Once he left, I immediately phoned my manager, who called the police, but he left shortly after that. I guess the lesson to take away from here today is not to do drugs, kids. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.